Wait, you mean they're staying here? With us? Lisa stared at her husband.
Well, yeah. We survived 2 months, we'll just keep going like that.
If this is a joke, it's not funny.
Lisa shook her head, disapproving.
What joke, Lisa? This is serious. We're talking about kids here. Jokes are not appropriate.
Fine. And how exactly do you see our life working now?
I already told you. We'll live like we've been living.
No, we will not live like we've been living. The first month I was on vacation. The second I took unpaid leave. That's the only reason I managed. I have to go back to work.
Then quit.
Can you support our now expanded family? Because your paycheck wasn't enough even for the 3 of us, me, you and Ethan.
She ticked off on her fingers.
That's why I worked full-time, took every extra shift they give me, and did side work. And this last month, if you haven't noticed, our savings got vacuumed out.
Then go back to work already. Why are you coming at me?
I'm coming at you? I'm the problem.
She jabbed a finger at him.
You're the one who dropped 2 extra kids on my neck. And you, by the way, said it was temporary. Until the court decided what would happen to them.
Well, now it's decided. They're staying here.
And asking me was not part of that process. Temporary I swallowed somehow, though I'm so burnt out I'm going to rest at work. But permanent? No, I'm not agreeing to that.
So what do you suggest? Send my nephews to foster care? Dump them into the system?
Why are you always so dramatic? You've got a whole army of relatives who were dying to rip those kids away from your dead brother's wife.
She tilted her head.
Let them foster the boys.
What are you even saying? They can't. We already talked about it.
Then they can pay me what I bring into this household every month. And on top of that, enough to cover your nephew's expenses. Only in that case can I quit my job, become a stay-at-home mom, and raise not only our son, but also your brother's kids.
You're insane. I can't take money from my own family. That's family.
Yes, Vince. That's family.
She jabbed at the table.
That same family that took those boys from their mother because they didn't like their daughter-in-law. That family that went to court and got her declared unfit. Now this family decided to dump the kids on us. And they think what exactly? They got what they wanted, and the rest is none of their concern.
You are such a money-grabbing.
The slap landed before he could finish the sentence. Lisa had never been a huge fan of her husband's relatives. They weren't monsters. But they were exactly the kind of small-town people who thought they were better than everyone around them, loud opinions, harsh judgments, constant gossip. At family gatherings, Lisa had learned to turn her brain off. Smile, pass the salad, and pretend she couldn't hear them ripping apart neighbors, co-workers, distant cousins. She was pretty sure they tore her apart too whenever she wasn't around. The only thing that protected her was the fact that she was useful. Lisa was a nurse. More specifically, a procedural nurse at the Maine County Hospital. She worked in the injection and 4 room. If you needed a line in, meds pushed, someone fast and steady when things went sideways, Lisa was that nurse. Her skills, and her connections, were worth a lot. Especially when you're married into a big family. A daughter-in-law who can help with doctors is practically considered public property. Vince, though. Vince had always been the odd one out in his clan. He didn't trash people for fun. He wasn't quick to anger. His default state was quiet. If there was a conflict in the room, he'd rather step back than jump in. His relatives tried riding on his back in his 20s, but once he married Lisa and moved into her apartment, he quietly shut that door. He stopped running to every family drama, and he never invited them to freeload at their place. Lisa didn't actively block his contact with them, she just built a life where they didn't have that much free time or open doors. A difficult pregnancy, Ethan's early childhood, Lisa's early return from maternity leave, life filled itself. The hospital begged her to come back sooner, her leave had wrecked the vacation schedule for her whole department. And nursing, especially in a busy county hospital, ate time and energy like a black hole. Unfortunately, Vince wasn't what anyone would call handy. He could heat up leftovers and keep a kid alive, that's about where his domestic skills plateaued. So the cooking, cleaning, laundry, all that stayed squarely on Lisa. But as long as she was working insane hours, she needed at least one thing from him.
Just be here. Just be at home. Make sure Ethan doesn't set the house on fire or jump off the balcony. I'll handle everything else when I get back. You can at least reheat what I cook, right?
On a good day, Vince could reheat food and not burn it. Lisa counted that as a win. She desperately wanted their tiny three-person family to be a little island of sanity. A small, safe place where she and Vince and Ethan could breathe. No boats from the mainland bringing in fresh chaos. But islands are hard to keep. Gossip from Vince's rare trips to his parents' place still floated back to her.
Mike married some barely legal girl.
Vince had told her once, sprawled on the couch, scrolling his phone.
She started popping out kids right away. As soon as he tried to push her into going back to work after the first one, she turned up pregnant again. And now she brought in some paperwork saying abortions are medically risky for her. So Mike's stuck waiting another 3 years before she graciously decides to get a job.
If he doesn't love her, why is he still with her?
What do you mean, doesn't love her? Of course he loves her. And he loves the kids. It's just hard being the only one paying the bills. She doesn't want to work at all. Told him her dream is to have 5 kids.
Lisa smiled faintly. 5 kids on one construction salary sounded like a horror movie. If he's already losing his mind over her second maternity leave, what's he going to do on the 4th, she mused silently. Then filed the whole thing under, not my problem. Then there was Vince's sister.
Kate's completely lost it. Found herself a husband 17 years older. Everyone's yelling at her to get out, but she's glued to Ben and won't let go.
Is he awful?
Not really. He's actually a decent guy. And rich. That's the thing.
He rolled his eyes.
He's got 3 kids from his first marriage. They're practically grown. He doesn't want more kids. The man's almost at grandpa age. Kate says she's thrilled. Claims her body will stay perfect and she'll never have sleepless nights. Unless she slips him some blue pills and changes his mind.
It's her choice. If she doesn't want kids, that's her business. Your brother's got enough for the whole family, sounds like.
Yeah, but he's broke because of Naomi. Kate landed a rich husband. If she gives him a baby, then her kid will get part of that inheritance too. Mom and Dad already did the math.
He mimicked his parents' voices.
If there's a grandchild in that house, Kate can stay home, and they'll get help from Ben and Kate both.
Ah, Lisa had said politely. She honestly didn't care. For a tiny second, she wondered if they trashed her like that too. Probably not as much. She worked full-time, grabbed every extra shift, and still found time to stop by Vince's parents' place with injections and pain meds when his dad's back went out. There wasn't much you could say against a daughter-in-law who both paid her own way and stuck needles in your spine for free. Then tragedy hit. Mike died. No one ever got a straight story. Maybe he'd been drinking for Friday night. Maybe his eyesight was worse than he admitted. Maybe he and Naomi had had another blowout and he stormed out drunk and stupid. All they knew was, he walked out in the dark. Someone had stolen the cover off a storm drain. He didn't see it. If he'd been sober, he might have caught himself. Instead, they found him in the morning at the bottom of a concrete shaft, broken in too many places to count. Judging by the marks, he tried to climb out at least once before the shock finally won. They mourned. They cried. They buried him. Then a little delegation from Vince's family marched over to Naomi's apartment.
This place was never Mike's.
Vince's mother, Valerie, announced the second Naomi opened the door.
This is our house. It was my parents'. We let you two live here out of the goodness of our hearts. Now Mike is gone. Pack your things and go.
Are you insane? Where am I supposed to go with 2 kids?
No one's saying anything about the kids. They'll stay here. With us. You have to go.
I'm their mother.
Barely. You're lazy, useless, and shameless. You could have gone back to work a month ago, but you haven't moved. You're out every weekend at some club while the baby's barely out of diapers. Mike told us everything.
She smiled thinly.
We're going to court to terminate your rights. Our grandkids don't need a mother like you.
The delegation was full, Vince's parents, Vince, and Kate. They kicked Naomi out with a couple of trash bags and told her not to forget she'd still owe child support. They gathered up the kids' things, and then...
Well, where else am I supposed to put them?
Vince demanded later that night, pacing their living room while Lisa sat on the couch like someone had pulled the ground out from under her.
My parents are old. They can't keep up with 2 little boys. Ben told Kate if she shows up with them, she and the kids are both out. So I brought them here, for now. Until the court sets permanent guardianship.
You're not seriously planning on taking that on yourself, are you?
Of course not.
Vince smirked.
The lawyers and the family can fight that out. The important thing is we got them away from Naomi. Turns out she's got a criminal record from when she was 18. Public intoxication, disorderly conduct, that kind of thing. Mike still went and married her. Idiot. Mom's already gathering paperwork. The judge will eat it up.
Let her gather whatever she wants. You tell me. What exactly am I supposed to do with your nephews?
What do you mean, what? You're a woman. You're born knowing what to do with kids.
Vince, when am I supposed to do it? One is 5. The other is 3. I'm not their mom. I'm not their dad. I'm a stranger they don't know. Did they at least go to daycare before?
Of course not. Naomi was home.
Well, I'm not. I don't sit at home.
Take some vacation time. Just until things get sorted out.
You can't explain much to a 3-year-old or a 5-year-old. You can distract, you can hug, but their brains are built around, where's mom? Where's dad? For the first week, they screamed themselves hoarse.
Where's mommy? Where's daddy? I want mommy now.
Then reality started to sink in. They stopped screaming all day, but every day at least once, one of them would burst into sobs again, demanding parents no one could give them. On top of that, they had to be fed, bathed, entertained, tucked in. You couldn't just sit them in front of a screen all day, they were too wound up. Lisa started popping valerian drops the first afternoon. 3 days later she was chewing them like candy, chasing them with lukewarm coffee. And she already had a kid of her own. Ethan was 10. Old enough to stay safe by himself for a couple of hours, but not old enough to understand why two strangers were suddenly living in his room, touching his toys. Vince's answer to every complaint was the same.
It's a process. The system moves slow.
What wasn't slow was his nightly expectations: hot dinner, clean clothes, a tidy house. By the time Lisa's official vacation ran out, nothing had sorted itself out. Without proof of guardianship, daycare wouldn't take the boys. Leaving them home alone wasn't an option. Lisa asked Vince to take some time off instead. He flapped his hands like she'd suggested he grow wings.
That's woman stuff. Don't drag me into stupid things.
2 weeks of unpaid leave evaporated. She took a third. When she filled out the request for a fourth unpaid week, HR called her into the office.
Next one will be a resignation,
they said flatly. When Vince came home all puffed up, announcing that he would be taking legal guardianship of the boys, that's what the family decided, Lisa hit the ceiling.
Listen up, genius,
she said, her voice suddenly made of iron.
Thanks to you and your delightful relatives, I have lived in hell for 2 months.
She stabbed a finger into his chest.
And now you've all decided my sentence is life? Not happening.
Vince threw up his hands.
Lisa! How can you talk like that? They're kids.
They're not my kids. And I never agreed to take custody of them. I never agreed to raise them. I never even agreed to babysit them this long. You all dumped them on me and walked away. They've been hanging on my neck long enough.
So what do you want me to do? Just throw them out?
Vince shouted, waving toward the hallway where 2 small backpacks sat.
Here's how this is going to work. Your parents decided Naomi wasn't good enough. They decided to rip her kids out of her life. You and your sister backed that plan, cheered it on, helped make it happen.
She counted off on her fingers again.
You took her kids. You helped get her parental rights terminated. You feel like heroes? Congratulations. These are your victories. And your problems.
She stepped closer.
You wanted those kids out of their mother's house? Fine. Figure out where they go now. Let your parents take them in since they were so sure Naomi was unfit. Or let your sister, since she couldn't stand Naomi either.
I did take them in.
No. You brought them to me. You handed them to me and walked back out the door.
She held his eyes.
And now somehow all of you get to wear white hats for saving the kids from their terrible mother. And I'm the villain because I don't want to raise them. I'm the bad guy because I refuse to turn my entire life into unpaid childcare for someone else's choices.
She lifted her hand and drew an invisible line in the air.
Not this time.
She pointed toward the door.
Either those kids leave my apartment and go to your relatives, however you all sort that out, or you leave with them. And you can go be the kind, caring, loving uncle in someone else's living room. But you're not doing it with my time, my money, and my mental health as the collateral.
After that, it didn't take long. Within weeks, Lisa was officially a monster in Vince's family group chat. Naomi 2.0. A cold-hearted witch who kicked out innocent children and broke up the family. When she actually went through with the divorce and hired a lawyer to calculate child support for Ethan, the narrative got even more dramatic. But one thought kept her warm at night.
Better now than 65.
She told herself.
Thank God it blew up now. Imagine living my whole life with him. Only to find out what he really is when I'm too old to start over.
She looked at herself in the mirror one morning before work.
33. Still young enough to build a new life from scratch.